Okay, so welcome back. We're going to talk a little bit more about change, and we're literally going to talk about a couple theories today. So this is research-based. We know this is working. This has been going on for years and decades that people have researched this stuff, and it's a common theory that's used in counseling. So life is a series of choices, and you are the one that gets to do this and decide what they are. There's no magic in this. There's no instant solutions, and it's difficult, like we've been talking about. I'm sure you get the point by now that this is going to require some pressure and some difficulty on your part, but know that change is a choice. And if you don't open your mouth, we can't feed you. So the fact that you're just willing to listen and go through this, you are making yourself available and vulnerable and willing to take in what you need in order to be fed. So congratulate yourself on that. And what we're going to talk about today are two different concepts. One is Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And the reason that I want you to understand this first is because there is a natural order to human beings. And what he said is that there's a psychological need that we all have, and there are certain levels that need to be met first before we can move to the next level and feel like our quality life has changed and that our self-esteem is improved and that we're doing what we were put on this earth to do. Okay, so Abraham Maslow says that initially, at the bottom of the ring, everybody needs basic physiological needs: shelter, oxygen, and housing. So just like we have in the southern coasts, and if you're near any kind of water, you're subject to a hurricane. And when we don't have our homes because they've been flooded or we don't have a place to live, then the rest of the world stops. There's no opportunity for us to really go out with our friends then because we need to get our homes in order. And so for someone that's homeless, it's really hard for them to go look for a job, to get their kids to dance class, because their basic needs have to be met. And for humans, sometimes people come into our offices and the only thing that they have on that spectrum of housing, oxygen, and food is oxygen, because they're still breathing. A lot of times people come into my office and they don't have food or they don't have anywhere to live. So before we can do any kind of trauma work or concentrate on any kind of counseling at all, we need to do some case management and work on those basic needs. So once they have a home, once they can breathe and they're fed, then the next level is safety. So they feel safe. And a lot of times people come into counseling and they don't have any level of safety. So our job as a counselor, our first task, is to create safety. And the way we do that is by creating a relationship with you. So we may not even get into the issues right away. We will find out what brought you here, what are the tasks that you want to achieve by coming here, and talk about the process that it took to get to this point. And hopefully we can create that safety that maybe you don't have anywhere else in your life. And then once the safety is complete, or you're working on it, then you start feeling like you belong to something and that you're loved and accepted. And all of us want to be loved and accepted. All of us want to love and accept others. And so once we've got those basics, the housing, shelter, oxygen, food, we start feeling safe, we start feeling like we're belonging to something, then our self-esteem starts improving. And once the self-esteem has that opportunity to get better, then Abraham Maslow calls this thing self-actualization. For me, what I tell them is people are doing what they feel like they were put on this earth to do, that they have discovered what their purpose is. So there are other technical ways to describe self-actualization better, but hopefully that will help you understand it in layman's terms. Okay, so we're going to go now to the theory of change. So back in 1938, two theorists, Prochaska and De Clemente, came up with this process. And we use it quite a lot in all areas of counseling, in addiction and trauma and just basic living. So I want to show you this right now. And what he says is that there are segments of our life that we have to go through. So let me give you an example of just coming to counseling. So prior to coming to counseling, no change was made. Well, you were just thinking about it. Okay, maybe I have to do some different change in my life. I'm still undecided. I'm just considering it. Others are aware that possibly I need to make some changes in my life, and maybe I don't see it as much as others do. So this is the pre-contemplation stage, and you really haven't entered the change process yet. So you enter the change process when you contemplate, okay, I'm willing to make these steps in my life. I'm still a little bit ambivalent. I'm still a little undecided and I'm vacillating, but I'm closer to the next step. So before, when you saw that there was changes that need to be made in your life, you thought about it and you said, okay, maybe I need to call somebody. And so you're talking to people, you're still in that contemplation stage, and then finally you decide, okay, I need to plan. So what do I need to do in order to make these changes in your life? So now you've gotten into the next step, which is planning. So in order to make these changes in my life and go to counseling, I need to look up some phone numbers. I need to make some time out of my day. I might need to ask my boss for some time off. I may need to get away from family and them not know, because again, families are not going to like that you're doing this. And so that's the planning process. The next stage is action. So action is when you actually start doing those steps, which you find the phone number, you make a few calls, you talk to somebody in the intake department and you say, hey, my quality of life is not what I want it to be right now. I'm wondering if you have somebody that can help me with this. And you look at your schedule and you actually go to the designated appointment and show up. That is huge. So you see that prior to even getting to where you want to go to start this, you are 3/5 of the way through the change process. That is huge, huge. They say that 75% of success is just showing up. And you, at this point, by just coming to counseling, by wanting to listen to these videos and do something about it, you are already 75% successful. That's wonderful. Huge applause. Good for you. So I want to give you another statistic that's a little bit alarming. Only 25% of people are willing to do this work. Only 25% of people are saying things are uncomfortable and misery is not okay for me. That means 75% of people are never willing to make changes in their life. They're willing to just let life happen around them. And you've decided, I'm not willing to do that. So 25% of you out of all of the people in the world are willing to make these changes. The really sad fact about the 25% is only 4% will actually follow through with this to the end. And so when you think about all of the people in the world, it's like 0.001% of the population is willing to take this to the end, where they're willing to make some significant changes in their life. And that's incredible. And those are the people that I want to reach, those that are wanting to do something, that they're willing to go through this really tough process and do this hard work. And it's not something that happens overnight. It's really something that's a matter of months and years. And in the next few segments, we're going to talk about what that looks like. And we'll use the metaphor of a farmer in trying to plant a seed to get a harvest. And you know, just from the top of thinking of that and thinking that through, that's a matter of months and a year maybe to make something actually grow. So we're now in the third stage of change, and the next one is maintenance. So you're going to counseling, some changes are being made, and now you've established this new way of doing things. So it's a new maintenance. Things are feeling better, and for you, change has occurred. And that feels good. It's a new way of doing things, and it feels better. So what do you think the fifth stage of change is? And no, most people don't even know that as humans this is what happens. But they call it relapse. And relapse simply means we've taken a couple steps back and we've made a mistake, or we need more information to make this new way of doing things a little bit more solid. So it will feel like you've taken a couple steps back and do one step forward. That is normal. That is the really cool part of understanding this change theory, is that it's a normal, logical way things go. So I had a guy at one time that was a cocaine addict, and he went to treatment after treatment after treatment, and he continued to do well, and then he would fall away because he would come back after treatment and get back into the way life used to be. That became comfortable, just like folding our arms. We want to go back to that requires little effort, because that's, again, like humans are. But when I showed him this change process, he's like, oh my gosh, that's so good to know, because I always felt shame when I would make this mistake, and I never understood that this was just a natural process of the, not the linear process, but those dips and ebbs and flows. Who is this person? And most of you, even if you're not a baseball fan, will know that this is Babe Ruth. And Babe Ruth, we all know, was a really great baseball player. And if you know a little bit more about his history, you also may know that he was an orphan, and he went in and out of adoption homes and foster homes, and he had a really hard life. He was a womanizer, he was a big drinker, but he also was an incredible baseball player. And so when you think about Babe Ruth in the context of baseball, you think, oh, he was the one that got the most home runs up until now, where we have other records that have been broken for different reasons. Did you know what other record that he holds? He holds the most strikeouts ever, which means he made a whole lot of mistakes before he was pretty good at doing home runs. So that's a perfect example of how relapse is just how we learn. So if you could just look at it as there are no mistakes, but just lessons in this world. So I know we go for that perfectionism, and we're going to talk a whole lot about that, but I want you to really think about it once you get this concept of this change theory, and I want you to say, are you okay with making a mistake? Because a lot of us aren't. We want perfection, and perfection is just not realistic. Imperfection is the way we are as human beings. So are you okay with making mistakes? Think about it. Thanks for listening.